A man was humiliating a waitress while everybody around her enjoyed it like a spectator.
Did I ever tell you that your ass is a wonderland?
But one man couldn't control his emotion and decided to teach the arrogant Harriser a lesson.
You want to apologize to the lady?
Not realizing this would initiate a war that would be impossible to be stopped. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
On something. Is there some kind of way we can give him a down payment?
The story kicks off with John Brickner, who's just been released from prison on parole. He served 4 years out of a 7-year sentence, thanks to good behavior and a deep sense of guilt overtaking someone's life. He heads to Seattle to start over, landing a job on a construction site where his boss is, well, let's just say not the nicest guy around. One night, John's at a bar when he notices the bartender getting hassled by a couple of drunk guys. He steps in, forces the guy to apologize, and throws him out like it's no big deal. This act of chivalry catches the attention of the bar owner, who offers John a side gig as a doorman. Cue a montage with some early 2000s rock vibes, showing John juggling his construction job, dealing with his awful boss, and proving his toughness at the bar when trouble arises. John's no-nonsense attitude and fighting skills don't go unnoticed. A stranger approaches him with a job offer, but John turns it down. Not long after, a woman named Veronica shows up at the construction site. Turns out, she's the widow of the man John killed. She tells him she pushed for his parole, not because of his apology letters, but because her 8-year-old daughter desperately needs a heart transplant. She holds John responsible for her husband's death and demands he come up with $250,000 to cover the surgery. John, a tough guy with a soft heart, takes stock of his pitiful savings back in his tiny apartment and hides the money in an air vent. That same evening, Frankie, the bartender, tries to cheer him up by joking about how great her backside is. Ignoring her attempt, John instead asks about the man who offered him a job earlier. Frankie introduces him to Reno, a guy who runs underground fight clubs. While Reno talks up the potential big payouts, John wants no part of the illegal scene, for now. The next day, things go south at John's construction job. Despite his hard work, his boss fires him for no real reason. Ironically, the same boss has a heart attack right afterward, and John steps in to save his life while they wait for an ambulance. That night, John visits Veronica to break the news that he doesn't have the money for her daughter's surgery. Furious, she shoves his old prison letters in his face, reminding him of all his promises to help. The noise wakes up her daughter, Sarah, who sweetly introduces John to her pet. The interaction tugs at John's heartstrings, leaving him even more conflicted. Feeling the weight of it all, John reconsiders the fight club scene. When a fighter collapses before a match, John steps in as a last-minute replacement. Despite taking a nasty bite during the fight, he wins. True to his nature, he shares part of his earnings with the guy he replaced, showing that even in this rough world, he's still got a moral compass. The next morning, John comes home from a jog to find Reno and Frankie waiting in his apartment. They've discovered his hidden stash of money and aren't too happy that he gave away part of his winnings. Reno explains they'll need more cash to keep John in the fights and to convince a backer known as Deacon to invest in him. They visit Deacon, but he's skeptical of John's reliability, claiming he doesn't see enough long-term potential. John asks to talk with Deacon privately. After a cryptic conversation filled with half-baked religious metaphors, Deacon agrees to back him for a price. To raise the money, Reno pawns his late father's cufflinks, and they approach another guy, Nestor, to square off an old debt Reno owes. Nestor's patience has run out, and he orders his men to take Reno out. But John steps up, proposing a high-stakes fight with $10,000 on the line. Nestor agrees, and after a tense, gritty fight surrounded by barking dogs, John pulls off another win. The victory secures the funds they need to keep moving forward. Meanwhile, Veronica calls, prompting Frankie to question who she is. It's revealed that Frankie sticks with Reno because he once saved her life, though John doesn't seem too interested in her backstory. Instead, he focuses on finding out what Reno pawned to keep things afloat. John later visits Veronica at the hospital, where Sarah has been admitted after collapsing. He reassures Veronica that he's doing everything he can to get the money for the surgery. Veronica, stressed and exhausted, doesn't do much to help herself or her daughter's situation, relying on John to shoulder the entire burden. Back at their apartment, tensions rise as Frankie accuses Reno of being reckless and not thinking things through. So, There's this moment where Frankie starts talking about someone named Veltz, and Reno immediately shuts her down. He says he's just managed to deal with Nestor and Trini and doesn't want any more trouble. Frankie, clearly fond of John, argues that he's not just some cash cow for them. Reno, getting annoyed, blurts out that John went to prison for murder. Then he sarcastically asks her if she really thinks John's one of the good guys, while stressing how much they need him to help pay off their debt. Meanwhile, John overhears this whole conversation but stays quiet, pretending he didn't catch a word of it. From here, the movie shifts to a montage of John taking part in fight after fight, and of course he's winning them all. In one scene, he finds Frankie chilling at home and casually asks why she's so skilled with a needle and thread, wondering why she didn't go to med school. Frankie flips the question back at him, making him second-guess his assumptions. While this is happening, Reno gets ambushed by Veltz's goons during a card game. They rough him up pretty bad and tell him he's got a week to come up with $150,000, or Frankie's safety will be on the line. Desperate to fix things, Reno sets up another fight, this time with one of Nestor's guys. The match is brutal. John takes hit after hit, and Frankie, worried sick, wants to stop the fight. But John keeps going, fueled by Reno yelling at him to let his anger out. Eventually, John lands a vicious blow and wins. While they're celebrating, John points out that the prize money should have been in the six-figure range, but Reno tells him they still need to wait for the payout. Things take a turn when John gets a panic call from Veronica. He rushes to her place and finds a rejection letter saying her request for an organ donor was denied. In the bathroom, he discovers Veronica unconscious after attempting to take her own life by slitting her wrists. Acting fast, he gets her to the hospital. While waiting there, Frankie starts asking about Veronica, and John finally spills the beans about everything. At this point, the movie reveals scars on Frankie's wrists, hinting that she once tried to take her own life too, but Reno saved her. Later, John visits Veronica in her hospital room and begs her not to give up. She, however, makes a dark comment, saying her heart could have been used to save her daughter. While this logic doesn't entirely hold up, since she could have chosen to be a living donor, John reassures her that he's going to find a way to get the money no matter what. Reno lines up another fight with Nestor's fighter, betting $150,000. During the match, Veltz's men corner Reno in the restroom and demand he pay up after the fight. Frankie catches a sight of the henchman and loses her temper at Reno for keeping her in the dark. The fight itself is intense, and though John comes out victorious, Nestor demands that the match turn into a fight to the death. John refuses and deliberately forfeits. Frankie rushes to comfort him, while Reno gets beaten to a pulp by Veltz's men for failing to deliver. On the drive home, John finally learns about Reno's debt and lays into him for keeping a secret. Reno brushes it off, saying it's not John's problem. But Frankie steps in, revealing that the debt is actually hers, and Reno took it on to protect her. A few days later, while eating at a restaurant, John notices a car that's been tailing him for a while. Deciding to confront it, he gets inside and is taken to meet an older, wealthy man. Turns out, this guy is the father-in-law of the construction boss whose life John saved earlier. John explains Sarah's dire need for a heart transplant and asks for financial help to secure a high-stakes fight. Then comes the twist. This man is none other than Veltz. He gives John a choice, either erase Reno's debt or fund the fight. Without hesitation, John picks Reno's freedom. Later, John takes Veronica back home, and they have a heart-to-heart. Veronica starts opening up about her life, lighting a cigarette as she talks about how becoming a mother was her greatest accomplishment, even though it meant giving up on her dreams. She also admits she knows her husband's death was in self-defense, easing some of John's guilt. John pays a visit to Deacon to ask why he told him that parable about forgiveness. Deacon, visibly conflicted, admits he can't help John with his problem. Back at the apartment, John gets ready to leave, but Reno shows up to thank him for clearing his debt. Frankie adds that Reno once saved her life by rescuing her from Veltz and even paid to help her recover after a suicide attempt nearly ended her. Then, Reno gets a call confirming that the high-stakes Timmons fight is on, funded by an anonymous benefactor. The group is thrilled, and this sets the stage for the climactic fight. It's John's toughest challenge yet. At one point, the cage floor gives out, and he falls into a basement. It looks like he's done for, but John rises, covered in some unknown substance, and insists on finishing the match. Against all odds, he wins, and Reno crowns him with the nickname The Damage. In the aftermath, John secures a donor for Sarah's heart transplant and even manages to retrieve Reno's father's cufflinks from the pawn shop. Before parting ways, John and Reno share an awkward hug, and everyone starts to rebuild their lives with a sense of closure that if you like this recap, don't forget to hit that like button.